Hey, welcome back. It's time to tee it up with our host Tom and John as they talk with the people driving Orange County today and keeping us on course. Let's see who wants to tee it up first. Tom or John, which one's going first here today?
Now on the tee, John Stephens.
From Costa Mesa, California, the mayor, hitting it up. Hey, so we got a great guest today. Our guest is Police Chief Ron Lawrence, who, among his many other accolades, was our golf partner at the Lions Club tournament.
It was a great fundraiser in town.
It was. It was a lot of fun. And
you know what I liked about that tournament?
What?
Is the chief, you can tell he takes the police work very seriously. Because, his golf game was sort of, he doesn't spend a lot of time out there. I think he's managing that crew very, very well.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've got good golfers at the Costa Mesa Police Department. Jake Schultze is a great golfer. There's a lot of great golfers in the PD. The chief isn't necessarily one of them, but neither are we, right, Tom? I mean,
no. In fact, I could have easily been carrying both of your bags that day. So it was good.
Talking about Jake Schultze, I want to point out that he was one of the top winners in the Police and Fire Olympics for golf this year.
Oh my gosh, good for you. Good for him.
He's great.
Chief, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
So you had, boy, what a long week. You had 4th of July, and I know that always brings different challenges to cities and everything like that. You survived.
We survived. We actually did really well. We ramp up staffing from June 30th through July 5th, and this year, is no exception. It's a pretty busy season for us. We had about almost 400 general broadcast calls for service just related to fireworks alone during that season. So it's always a busy time for us.
Well, this year, though, Tom, it was unbelievable, the effort of the PD, because we had on the 3rd of July, we had our big event, and the chief was there. And so we had, police officers going out just doing crime calls. That's one thing. And then they've got the fireworks calls. And then they showed up in force at our event. And
this is the event on Monday at the fairgrounds.
We had a wonderful time. It was all free. We had anywhere from 10 to 12,000 people there. The Tijuana Dogs played, and we had the best fireworks display ever. But Chief, I want to talk about the police that were there, because it was a completely peaceful event, not one incident whatsoever, in large part because we had a group there. We had our command staff there. We had probably, 8 to 12 cops, but we also used our mobile command unit. So, Chief, talk about, whoops, that's me, sorry. Talk about everything we deployed at that event. It was really quite something.
Yeah, we were very methodical about that approach, and we had, as you mentioned, 3 layers of security, if you will. We had the on-site officers who were really more officer-friendly, there to meet with the families, the kids. We had a lot of opportunities to have a presence there, but it was more of a family-friendly event, so we wanted to make sure that we were a part of that. On the outside of the event, we had our traffic team there helping the traffic flow coming in and out. And then, of course, we had our patrol officers on regular patrol, and then our directed enforcement for the fireworks. So if there was an event, we had plenty of staff. Our mobile command vehicle is our brand-new mobile command post that the City Council authorized, and we had our drones out in force, so we're taking bird's-eye view of the crowd. And what I'm really proud of is you've got 10 to 12,000 people in our community. I'm really proud of our community because there was not a single incident. And it just goes to highlight what kind of a program that is. The city put on a very family-friendly event. Everyone had a great time. Not a single event with 12,000 people is pretty phenomenal. So I just kudos to our community.
Chief, I think that goes both ways, though, because I've seen far too many events where there's just not good interaction necessarily between those that are there to manage the event and those that are attending the event. And I think a lot of credit goes to you and your officers at the Costa Mesa Police Department, because there had to be a lot of interaction, but that means both sides are working together. So good for you too.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I think that in large part it's a philosophical mindset of assuming people are going to come to have family fun. rather than assuming people are going to come to cause trouble. And so
Right.
if our officers go out with the mindset of, hey, everybody's just here to have a good time. They're here to watch fireworks. They're here to watch the Tijuana dogs. They're here to have a good time with their family. And we want to be a part of that. And that was, it was fun. It was a nice event.
Chief, how long have you been a police officer?
A little over 33 years.
So let me ask you a
34.
question. When you're decked out in, full uniform and things like that, and you're at an event like you were on Monday, and some young, boy or girl walks up to you and looks up at you with such kind of excitement in their eyes to be able to meet this policeman, does that still bring kind of chills to you that that kids look at you so favorably?
That is probably one of the single most benefits of our job. I love those moments, and they happen a lot. And it warms my heart when it does, because I've got a young man or woman that are a young boy and child that are excited about policing, and they look up to the police officer as a good person that's going to help them. And in that moment, I know I'm leaving a lasting impression. So it does warm my heart, and I know our officers feel the same way. In fact, not just kids. I was at a community event, and somebody asked me, what can we do for the police? How can we support you? Yeah. And I said, the best thing you can do is when you see a police officer, tell them how much you appreciate them. That's all. You don't need to buy them lunch. You don't need to do anything. Just say, hey, thank you for your service.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, that means the world to us.
I think we've done a good job nationally with service people, Marines, Army, and things like that. Because I know I do that. If I'm walking, if I'm in the airport or something and I see somebody, I try to go out of my way and say thank you for your service or whatever. You're right. We should be doing the same thing with police officers, because they're out there. Gosh, we are so lucky. I was looking at some crime reports the other day from Newport Beach for Stu News when I was putting that together, and they're out there on the normal calls for fire, or they're out there on their normal calls for whatever it is, burglary or whatever. Then they have, more drunken publics and more DUIs than normal because of the holiday. And then they have the calls for fireworks, and they're managing it all.
Unbelievable.
It's pretty incredible.
So, we can't take for granted the great relationship that the community in Costa Mesa has with the PD, and it's reciprocal. I went on a ride along on I think it was Sunday, and I have this.
Were you in the front of the car this time?
I was in the front. Yeah,
okay, good for you.
I know. It's unusual for me to do a ride along when I'm not bound and gagged, but this time.
Wow, no cuffs.
This time I was free. My hands were free. I wasn't hogtied or anything like that, like usual. But seriously, I went with young Officer Davis, and she's a great young officer, and she was saying how one of the things that attracted her to Costa Mesa, and she's a recruit, which we definitely need to build our force, is the relationship that the community has with the police, and it's reciprocal. Like I went out with her, and I was just so amazed by everything that the officers, every time they have a call, there's somebody, either a victim or a suspect, that's having a bad day. I mean, it's every single call you have to manage through some type of delicate situation. So we went out on one call, and it was a family and two little girls. It was a 10-year-old and 7-year-old, and of course the parents. And the girls thought they heard a prowler, so they came running out of the house. The dad called the cops. Cops came. There were 3 units, and they assessed the situation. They went and they cleared the backyard. They cleared the house. And then Officer Davis, who was with me, she did something that went above and beyond the call of duty, I thought. She says, I want to go talk to the girls, and I want to go talk to the mom, who were in a car across the street. She went over and talked to them, reassured them, walked them through the house to make sure, there's no boogeyman here, everything's safe. And then they went over and talked to another officer, Officer Meridakis, who was a canine officer, and he gave him a sticker of Bodie, our canine officer. And those kids and that family not only felt safe, but they felt secure. And it was actually a positive interaction with the police, and they went from being scared to reassured. And that's what we get from our police, and those are the stories. They will tell that story, and that's what gets the love and the respect of the community for a police department.
I couldn't agree more. No, that's great stuff. Congratulations, Chief.
Yeah,
That's good stuff to be pushing through. Let me ask you a question as long as John just brought this up. He talked about a female officer. And I know, I have 2 daughters. I want nothing more than for women to be looked at equally for men in the workplace and all of that stuff. I want them both to have I want women to have the same opportunities and things like that. I don't know this officer you were talking about, this female officer that you were talking about, John. But when an officer goes out like that, a female officer, if they were to encounter, let's say they were the first to respond to a call and they encountered some problems or whatever, convince me that they're equipped to handle themselves in that situation.
Well, I'll tell you, oftentimes they're better equipped, and let me share with you why. We all receive the same amount of training, and they have to go through the same hiring process, which is very rigorous. The full-on background, the psychological exam, the physical fitness exam, the medical screening, and then the police academy is well over 6 months long, which is very arduous and very challenging, very hard to pass. And so any police officer or deputy sheriff or highway patrol officer that comes out of the police academy is well equipped to be on solo patrol. And even after the police academy, they go through a full-on field training program, which is another 4 months long. So from start to finish, by the time you hire somebody to you get them on a solo police patrol, it's well over a year. It's typically a year to a year and a half. And I'll tell you that in our business, what's really critical is emotional intelligence and being able to communicate, being able to de-escalate and defuse emotions. And so what people sometimes conjure up, and I think it's probably back from the 50s and 40s and 60s or whatever, that police work was a certain way. You had to be big, brawny, strong, and go do certain things. That's just not true. What's true is you have to be smart, and you have to be able to communicate. You have to be able to think fast, and you have to be able to connect with people and resonate with their emotions and resonate with the situation. And so oftentimes, really, you've got people in situations, and what John just experienced was a great example. You got a mom and her 2 daughters, and a female officer. Well, they're going to sometimes relate better with that. We see that with sexual assault victims. They're going to maybe they resonate better or communicate better with a female officer. So, oftentimes it's a huge benefit. But when it comes to any call for service, any one of our officers are prepared to handle that situation physically, mentally, emotionally, and I'm proud of our team. And that's not just our department. I think that we prepare men and women equally in this profession.
The other thing too is they have that in my vast 4-hour ride along, I learned is they all have each other's back.
Yeah.
So it would be very rare for any police officer to go up by themselves on a call and not be followed by someone immediately afterwards, and if not, a group of people. Remember, even on the Prowler call, I said there were 3 units that were out. So they really have each other's back out there.
That's cool. Yeah. Hey, Chief, Costa Mesa, as a city, made a fundamental change in their business community, and actually in their research and development parts of the community also, by allowing cannabis to come in. And in the last few months, Costa Mesa has actually opened up retail cannabis shops. And I don't know what the count is or anything like that. And you know what? I mean, I'll just be honest. I mean, I can't see that decision came up through the police department. I don't see the police department saying, hey, great idea, let's put cannabis out there. But once it's out there, and I know why it's good for the city, it's some tax revenue, it's kind of a more acceptable part of the community, much like probably alcohol in the early 1900s or whatever. But something like that has to change, what you're doing as a department. How much pressure does allowing cannabis shops in Costa Mesa bring on the police department?
Well, this might sound counterintuitive, but it actually has helped us The reality is, before we had allowed that in Costa Mesa, we had illegal operators occurring all over the place. We had people that were selling cannabis in the illegal market, the black market, if you will.
Sure.
And we were constantly overtaxed with trying to find these actors, these bad actors, and infiltrate them and shut them down, and it was just a constant battle. And once those cannabis dispensaries have opened up and started operating in the legal market, the black market has shrunk to almost nothing here in Costa Mesa. They've gone someplace else where the legal market's not there. So in regards to what we do, it's actually been a benefit and a help. And as far as the impact of the legal operators, we have not seen any issues so far. I mean, it's still new, but we haven't seen any issues or any concerns. So it's actually helped us, and I know that sounds counterintuitive, but it's the truth.
Well, the other thing is we have so many restrictions on the legal operators, and one of them is lighting. The other is security. So they have 24-hour security. So the security at the cannabis businesses is a force multiplier for the PD. For example, there's a place over on 17th. There's a cannabis retail shop that's going in called Catalyst. And that area, I talked to the owner of that center, and he goes, we've had problems with people, homeless folks living here and camping and everything like that. We've had to call the cops. Now this cannabis dispensary goes in, brings their security, brings their lighting, all that is gone, So now, by the way, issues probably moved to someplace else, but where you have the cannabis distributors, you have generally more eyes on that area and security, so it makes that area more secure.
Yeah, and to take that one step further, there's properties that were dilapidated and businesses that have been closed and shuttered, and that has caused problems that had broken windows and people camping inside and so forth. And some of those that have become dispensaries have turned those properties around to clean them up. They're good-looking buildings now, and it helped us with a whole different issue. So there's a lot of benefits that came out of that.
Cool. So nowadays, I know you still have, all the same kind of things that pop up on occasion, different kinds of crime and things like that. But if you're looking at Costa Mesa, what do you see as the biggest concerns, and what advice do you have for residents? I mean, is it people getting scammed online? Is it burglaries? What is it, and what should people be doing?
Well, there's a few issues there with what you just said. There's serious types of crimes, and then there's crimes by volume. So if you were to ask me what's our most crime, I would say, like many communities compared to Costa Mesa, I would say theft is probably our biggest crime. But Costa Mesa is really a low crime city. In fact, right now as I sit here, crime's down in all categories of the Part 1 crimes, except for theft. Theft, well, actually arson, but arson's when I say arson, it's actually like dumpster fires, small little type of things. But theft is the only area that we're up by call volume. And so my advice to residents is to be sure to be vigilant. Don't leave things in your car like your laptop or your purse. When you go into the grocery store, you go to the gym to work out. Don't leave your golf clubs in your car when you park in front of your house. Those are the...
I'm hoping somebody takes those.
But to when I answer the question of what's the most serious crime facing us, and I would say not only us but California and the nation, I would say fentanyl right now continues to be a crisis. It continues to be a problem. There was a period of time when we were experiencing about 4 fentanyl-related deaths per month here in Costa Mesa, and that's indicative of every community around us. The same things happening, and so fentanyl is a nationwide crisis that really needs to be addressed.
So if I'm a parent, I am a parent, but if I was a parent of high school kids, for example, the thing that would concern me of being a parent nowadays of kids that age or whatever is they go out and they get their hands on something. They really don't know what it is. Their friends say, oh, you should try this. It's really fun and everything like that. What advice do you have for parents? What what should they be doing that improves their odds to get a kid raised without those kind of problems in their life?
Well, let me start with just saying that the Drug Enforcement Agency has a campaign called One Pill Can Kill. So, and if you look up that website, One Pill Can Kill, there's a lot of advice on there that I would direct people to. There's a lot of great information on the hazards and what to do. And so One Pill Can Kill, if you look up that website, there's a great information in there. But to answer your question, my wife and I, our kids are all grown. We have 4 grown kids, and so we've been through that period of time. And I have to say it, being in your kid's business. I mean, we were in our kids' business constantly. And I know some parents feel like, well, I want to give them their space and give them their freedom. And that's true to a degree. But I think that when it comes to things like fentanyl, we've got to have the hard discussions. You've got to be talking to your kids. I know it's uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable for me and my own kids. It was awkward. But that's where, as parents, I think we have to step up and say, what's going on in your life? What's going on? Who's your friends? Who are you hanging out with? And just really be engaged, because I think some parents aren't as engaged as they could be. And I think, for all the right reasons, I get it. But having that relationship with our kids and asking them those hard questions is really key, I think.
And one of the other things is have Narcan in the house. So I mean, because this fentanyl now and the pills that kids get, it's not like your old overdose where you overdose on drugs by taking too many drugs. As the chief said, one pill that's laced in the wrong way can kill a kid or an adult or anyone. So it's good to have the Narcan. And when I was doing my ride-along, I learned that police officers in Costa Mesa are often the first on the scene when there's some drug incident involving fentanyl, and frequently are administering Narcan before the fire can even get there, because they're the first responders. And so police officers in Costa Mesa are saving lives with Narcan every day, and then getting these pills off the street. Chief, tell about that recent bust where we got the pills and the cash from a fentanyl dealer.
Oh yeah, we get we're fortunate. We seize a lot of illegal fentanyl pills. In fact, I'm looking at my stats here. From 2018 to 2023, over 283 pounds of fentanyl. It's 522,000 fentanyl-laced pills have been received from the streets. Now, I don't want to give the wrong impression here. Those are not manufactured and slung around here in the streets of Costa Mesa. These are drugs that are from outside of our city that are either coming through our city, or our detectives, our undercover officers, were able to make a connection outside of Costa Mesa. So this is like I mentioned, it's a statewide issue, it's a nationwide issue, but Costa Mesa is doing our part to work with our partners in the DEA to get this stuff off the streets of California.
And we've got a great narcotics unit now, and detectives that are going after this, and it's great the way we've built back those specialty units over about the last, I'd say, 5 or 6 years. You remember, Tom, when I ran in 2016, the police was at the lowest staffing it's ever been in the history of Costa Mesa.
Right.
And now we've built ourselves back. We've got great leadership. Chief, you could tell the listeners about the promotions that we've done in the last month, and the chief is really, when we're trying to support as best we can as the council through our budget, but the chief has really brought the department back to a level of prominence that I don't think we've ever had in the city.
Yeah, I thank you for that, and I thank our city council, because they listen to me. They understand what I'm telling them we need, and these aren't just adding police officers ad hoc. These are specifically there's specific reasons. For example, we added an auto theft task force detective. We recognized we were having issues with catalytic converter thefts and stolen vehicles, so they gave us a detective for the auto theft task force, which is a county-wide task force. They gave us a third school resource officer after the Uvalde incident happened, and so working with Newport Mesa Unified School District, we added another school resource officers to make sure our kids are safe, that they know that the officers are there to protect them, and that we have that positive relationship. We added a sergeant out at the South Coast Plaza just to help us work on the organized retail theft issues that are happening up and down the state.
Now, do you give that person a credit card? No, go ahead, sorry.
So these have been very specific and deliberate building. And since I've been here, I've been the chief here a little less than 2 years in Costa Mesa. We've gone from, I think we were at 136, and we're up to 142 now. And so we've done a great job. We've added a deputy police chief, Joyce LaPointe. I recently promoted her to deputy chief, and she's doing a fantastic job. We've just got 2 new captains promoted, 2 new lieutenants, two more sergeants. So we're in a great space in the police department right now.
Well, Chief, I can tell you, again, it was a big, important fundraiser in the community, but I did have the chance to spend, a little time with you on the golf course. And first of all, it was great getting to know you. And, I just feel like the city's in great hands with your leadership of that department. It's so good to hear about all the good things that are happening. It's great to hear that we went through July 4th. We had 10 to 12,000 people at the fairgrounds. There were no problems. And that's just a credit to what you're doing in the community and the leadership that you're bringing. And I want to congratulate you on that. I've always been a big admirer of the police department. And it's great to be able to sit here and say that, Costa Mesa's in good hands.
So, Paul, you had a question.
I did. I don't know enough about Costa Mesa to know that. Do you have your own police force, or
Yes.
are you one of the cities that contracts with the county sheriffs?
Yeah, we're
We have our own police department.
full service city.
So
Since
talk about that,
1953.
because that seems to be a trend. That's not the trend. More and more cities are saving costs, they say, and contracting it out to somebody else. Why do you do it that way, and how does it work?
Well, I don't know that that's actually a trend. There are some contract cities, even here in Orange County, but up and down the state there are contract cities in California. But there's statewide in California, there's 344 cities that have their own police department. So the majority of cities have their own police department. And, I think there's an important distinction. This is no issue with the sheriffs at all, but the sheriffs are an elected official. So the sheriff gets elected, and the sheriff is the sheriff. The police chief's appointed. So I'm appointed by the city manager, who's appointed by the mayor and the city council. So I'm accountable to the city council, and I'm accountable to the people of Costa Mesa. And if I'm not doing my job, they fire me. You can't fire the sheriff. You have to recall the sheriff. So there's a distinction there that's really important, and it's really about local control. And so when you have the ability to hold your police chief and your police department accountable, there's a lot more intimate relationship with the community and the police department. One of the principles of policing is the police are the people and the people are the police. And I think when you have your own police department, that is what's true. And so
of the 34 cities in Orange County, do we know how many of them have their own police force? I know the big ones do.
I think it's about a third that has their own, and 2/3 that do the sheriff. But I wanted to mention another thing, because in terms of fiscal control.
Right.
So I get invited to these regional mayors events, and it's interesting. The mayors that have the contract with sheriff have no control over what they get charged. That's negotiated at the county level, and it's just passed through. And the mayors just have to just take it, whatever it is. Or when I say the mayors, I mean the cities, and they have to pay their bill to the county. By contrast, in the city of Costa Mesa, I've been involved in many negotiations with the Police Officers Association since I've been on council. But this one in particular was interesting because it was the smoothest collective bargaining negotiation that I've ever been a part of, because the chief was involved. He explained what we needed to sustain the department. We have a great president of the Police Officers Association, Jared Corte, who is a very good communicator, very level-headed. And then we had our negotiators for the city manager and the council, and we worked it out. I think it took us less than a month. I mean, that's unheard of. And it was very collaborative, and we got everything we needed to have a strong department, but also a fiscally sound department.
Well, I would just say it's like this. When you have your own police department, to me, it's like having your own city government. They're much closer to you. They're much more engaged in the city, and you feel like you can reach out and be affected by them. I think if you lived on county land and I would imagine this, I haven't done it, but I would imagine this, where you're dealing with sheriffs and you're dealing with people at the county level. You just don't have that same kind of control and input into the community. And I think Costa Mesa, I think Newport Beach, they're really blessed to be able to have, their own police departments, their own, city governments and stuff. And you know what? You may not like the city government at some point. You may say like, oh, I don't like this candidate or whatever. But the idea is you can vote them in or out next time. The police department is run by a good chief, and we're blessed locally to have some good chiefs. So
Yeah, we can't take it for granted. We cannot.
By the
take
way,
it for
I
granted.
live in Costa Mesa too, so I'm a Costa Mesa resident, which is
well, good for you.
a big difference, because when I go to community meetings and I hear complaints about certain areas, I either already know about it because I drive by it every day myself, or I can go check it out, and it's personal to me because I live here too.
I was going to ask that, if you have your own police force, is it more likely that not just the officers but the administrators live in the community, as opposed to the sheriff? They rotate people through. They probably don't live in the community. It seems like if community policing's the goal, then you want the cops and the firefighters to live in the community.
I'll let the chief answer, but I'll just jump in. I don't think a majority of our firefighters or our police officers live in the communities. My personal feeling is they get out of the community to go and relax and carry on their own life, but they come back in and they know what the responsibilities are in emergencies and everything like that. But I don't think you find most of them living in the community that they work in. Am I correct?
Well, not most, but I'll tell you that a lot of them, a lot more would, and I'll tell you it's a whole other topic for a whole other discussion on another day, but a lot of it's the cost of living.
Yeah,
housing in Costa Mesa, and that actually on the coast anywhere here is really expensive. So when you talk about housing costs and as far as income housing, and you're talking about dispatchers and police officers and firefighters that maybe they can't afford to live here, that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
Well, and the testimony to that is, I know more retired police officers that live in Costa Mesa PD that live in Costa Mesa than I know active.
Yeah.
And it's because the retirees were able to buy in earlier in their career when the cost of housing was reasonable. But yeah, it's great. And Joyce LaPointe, our deputy chief, also, she's lived in Costa Mesa for over 30 years. So having both the chief and the deputy chief living in Costa Mesa is helpful.
And the mayor.
And the mayor. Well, the mayor has to live in Costa Mesa, but it's helpful. But it's a little bit unusual to have police officers or firefighters live in Costa Mesa in particular, because it's so expensive.
Well, Chief, get out there and keep us safe, will you?
I will. Hey, thank you for having me on today.
And I look forward to seeing you again soon and spending some time. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
hopefully
Chief.
not behind the red light.
Yeah, right.
I know. Yeah, we'll get him in the back of one of those squad cars.
Yeah, right. Okay, Chief, take care.
Thank you.
All right, bye now.
Bye-bye.
And we got to give a shout out to our sponsor.
Oh yeah, Stephens-Friedland LLP, business trial lawyers in Costa Mesa. I've been practicing for 34 years. I'm still going strong.
And they can get you out of the back of one of those police cars.
Yeah, it's
Not that kind of a...
only civil dispute.
I know.
Business trial lawyer.
But, I'm with Stu News, and we write them up. So,
That's right.
If you want to get your name in print, I got a couple different ways. You can go out and do something really good in the community, or you can go out and do something really bad. And either way, we'll cover you.
Yeah.
So, okay.
All right, great. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.